Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I talked about this story before, but this is an update. A while back, I did the video about the woman who was arrested, and they found a stress ball in her purse, and they cut it open, and they thought that what was in there might have been contraband, even though twice they tested it and it came back negative for being contraband, but they still, threw her in jail. So this story has a resolution now because they went to court on this. And the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has the headline, and I'm going to go with their headline, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on. But it says, transgender woman awarded $1.5 million for Atlanta officer's false drug arrest. That's from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Alexis Stevens wrote the story. Federal jury awarded $1.5 million to the transgender woman who spent more than 5 months in jail because of a bogus arrest by an Atlanta police officer. Back in 2015, she was walking with friends in Midtown when she was arrested and charged with jaywalking, a crime she says she didn't commit. So this is not the crime of the century, at least at the beginning. The officer, there's two of them, then searched her purse because, of course, she's been arrested for jaywalking, so you need to do that. And they found a stress ball inside her purse. So they decided to cut it open to see what might be inside of it. And, it's kind of weird. Like, if she'd had a magic 8-ball in her purse, would they have cut that open too? I mean, do you just destroy everything they have on them just in case there's something hidden inside of it? So the officers then tested the substance found inside the ball for narcotics. Despite 2 field tests coming back negative, she was charged with trafficking cocaine. She was then in the Fulton County Jail until March 22nd of 2016. So the ordeal began in October of 2015, and she was in jail until March of 2016. She filed her lawsuit against the Atlanta police and the 2 officers. The case went to trial early this month, and the jury ruled in favor of her. The test was negative, and he charged her anyway. The attorney said in an email statement, everyone on the jury saw that the test was negative. It should not have taken 7 years in a federal jury trial to bring this to light. It's terrifying to think what other abuses the city of Atlanta has tolerated that haven't gotten our attention. Our client was obviously profiled, as are so many others. The city declined to discuss the judgment, and of course, we're in that time period right now where they're probably thinking about appealing, and they probably could still appeal, so we'll wait and see what happens. City spokesperson said, as this is an ongoing legal matter, the city is reviewing the order and the officer's options. According to the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, both officers are still employed with the Atlanta Police Department. In his written judgment last week, the judge said the case highlighted 2 injustices at the hands of the Atlanta police. During the trial, one of the officers testified that he always arrests people that he catches jaywalking. He arrests them. For one thing, any arrest, even for a low-level offense like jaywalking, can seriously disrupt a person's life, including by making it harder for him or her to obtain employment, the judge wrote. Beyond that, the time it takes for an officer to arrest someone for jaywalking arguably could be better spent on more pressing activities, such as addressing violent crimes, which seem so prevalent in recent times, or with engaging with the community. Ray also said a point system for officers used to evaluate their job performance could create perverse incentives. Consider an officer who is at the end of his shift and has not yet hit that day's points target. Rather than writing a citation for someone speeding on the highway or jaywalking, it would seem the officer might be tempted instead to arrest a person for just a couple of extra points. So what he's talking about there, of course, is whether or not police officers have what we often refer to as quotas. And quotas, a lot of people push back on that. And they say, well, we don't have quotas, referring to the police, what they say. And however, it's come to light in many cases that there is often some system of some sort whereby the officers are encouraged to write tickets or have certain kinds of interactions with the public. And whether it's a quota or not, there is some kind of system there that says you need to write this many tickets or have this many people you contact or something. There's some kind of mathematical measurement being made there. And the implication is that that was being done here, and that might be what inspired these officers to arrest somebody for jaywalking. And now, I am not familiar with the laws of Georgia, because I'm an attorney in Michigan. But the question I have is, if someone's jaywalking, and assuming that I understand what that word means, generally speaking, it means crossing the street improperly. So if there is a street and there are crosswalks at the intersections, to simply cut across the street in a place you're not supposed to would be jaywalking. Or crossing at the crosswalk but at the wrong time could also be jaywalking. So the sign says don't walk and you go. That would be potentially jaywalking. The question is jaywalking really an arrestable offense? Because, I mean, if you get pulled over doing 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, they give you a ticket. They don't arrest you for it. And you're telling me that they're going to arrest people for jaywalking? And so it seems to me that by itself would have been a problem. The fact that they arrested her for jaywalking. But of course, once they arrest her, that gives them the excuse to search the purse and find the stress ball and then to destructively test it and try to determine what's inside of it. And I have another question for you. And again, I've seen stress balls. I've seen different kinds of toys that are designed that you can play with and squeeze and so on. And the question is, do you really think that someone has the ability to get one of those and put stuff inside of it, seal it up in a way that still makes it look like it was made at the factory? That just seems like a really strange thing to think that someone's using to smuggle contraband. But even worse is that they tested the stuff twice and it came back negative. And my understanding is that many of these tests have problems in that they give false positives. So if it had given a false positive, I'd give them more benefit of the doubt here, but it was no false positive. It was just two negatives and a jaywalking offense. And for those two things, the two false negatives and the jaywalking, 5 months in jail. So it's a crazy story, and I will point out, because if I don't, people will say, Steve, you forgot to point out that the police department and those officers aren't paying this money out of their own pockets. This judgment's going to get paid for by taxpayers. Taxpayers of Georgia just got hit for $1.5 million because of two police officers who overzealously arrested a jaywalker and falsely accused her of drug trafficking because she was carrying a stress ball that didn't contain drugs. So this is just a strange story all the way around, and it's sad because you wonder, were the officers legitimately thinking that she was a drug trafficker? Or was there some reason that they just didn't like her for whatever reason? That's possible. Which gets us back to the headline. And the first word in the headline is transgender. Now, in the original version of this story, I don't think that was mentioned. I don't think we mentioned that. And a lot of times when I encounter stories that throw in a detail like that, I look at it and I go, I understand that right now it's a hot topic. People are debating all kinds of things regarding transgenders, this and transgender that. And so I look at the story and I read the story, and there's no reference in the story that played into it. Now, it's very possible and very easy to do that you could look at this and go, gee, I wonder if that's one of the reasons that the police officers had this reaction in this case. Maybe they were reacting to the fact that it was a transgender woman. Maybe, I don't know. And so that's one of the things I said at the very, very top. I said, I'll come back and address this later, is that I'm not sure that actually plays into the story other than as a description of the person who's in the story. And I know you're saying, well, Steve, tell a story well, you got to give us details and minutia and set the scene and so on. And yeah. But I also don't want to throw in details that'll unnecessarily distract us from the story, because this could have been a transgender woman. It could have been a transgender man. It could have just been a woman or a man. It could be a person. The fact that this happened to a person is actually a big deal. A person walking across the street, the police officers say, we think you're jaywalking, and arrest that person. Then searching that person, they find a stress ball. They slice the stress ball open. They find material inside of it that they think could be contraband, which they test, and it comes back twice as negative on the tests. It is not contraband according to their own tests. And they arrest that person anyway and throw that person in jail for 5 months. That story is still a story, okay? So let's not get hung up on that unless, and again, there could be a story out there that tells a different version of this, unless that's actually a big part of the story, because I don't know that it is. But it's in the headline, and I am getting you these facts in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, so I feel I should tell you this. But Alexis Stevens wrote the story, and both Donna and Madonna sent me the story, so thank you very much. And again, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Transgender woman awarded $1.5 million for the Atlanta officer's false drug arrest. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A theory on housework is, if the item doesn't multiply, smell, catch fire, or block the refrigerator door, let it be. No one else cares. Why should you?